now we're going to talk all about the work of Swift Index. And just to remind you, Swift Index launched at Cybers 2011 in Toronto. It is an early leading indicator of GDP growth. And the idea is that it could model and anticipate GDP in a variety of different countries and regions. It can be done on a global basis, but also regionally and at the national level. And joining us now to talk all about this is Andre Boyko. He is the head of pricing and business analysis at Swift. And also with us is Francis Van Bever. He is the CFO of Swift. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us today. I just think we should start with just reminding everybody, maybe Andre, you could do that, with how this index is actually calculated.
Basically, the Swift Index is calculated, is derived from our payments messages, and in fact a subset of our payments messages, the customer transfers. This is the famous MT103. It is the major message of Swift, the largest message. It is, to a certain degree, I believe, the one that most reflects the economic activity. It is the heartbeat of the world economy. If there is a wholesale transactions between two companies going through a bank, it will generate an MT103. And that's why, based on the number of MT103 customer payments that are flowing through the network, we calculate our Swift Index.
And the idea behind this is that GDP figures come out every quarter. You do this every month. So this is why you call it an early leading indicator. It's a predictive number that people can get an idea on what's happening across these different countries.
Indeed, spot on. I think that this is a very important element. It is an early indicator because it is available in the few days following the end of the month. Most of the current indicators, based on the documented data, are very often lagging by 2 or 3 months. Our index, it's an early indicator, and in fact we are producing 2 elements. It's a nowcasting, the very recent past and the very near future. Everybody may ask, why do we need to know the present or the very near past? Is because just there are no other indicators available. We just said the others are available in 2 months, 2 months, or even 2.5 months. And we are also forecasting the following quarter. So these 2 important elements are derived from the payment messages that are flowing through the network.
So Francis, I mentioned that since you launched last year in Toronto, you added some functionality. So I think when you started, was it global, am I correct? And now you can drill deeper into some regions and into some countries.
For the time being, we still have only the global index, and we will release indeed early next year more targeted index to the biggest economies of the world. So basically the UK, US, Germany, EU 27, and with that we cover about 80% of the world GDP. So we'll have more targeted figures that can be used by then customers who operate in those regions.
And what is the value to the community? Why are they so interested in this data?
Well, at this stage, it's early days, as you said, and we don't know exactly how the customers are using those data. What we know is there's a high interest. So although it's early days, we have 400 different institutions and corporates registered to use the Swift Index. We have interest from central banks, because that can also be a leading indicator for them. It's a bit early to know exactly how they're using it, but I believe it's just another source of information, and as Andre mentioned, that is available immediately after the end of the month. So that gives them a faster way to react to events.
So you've had a year of this data, let's say, at least at the global level. What for you have been some of the interesting nuggets that have come out of the data that you've seen over the year?
Obviously, we are looking very closely to the results. We are looking very closely to the results because as they give an indication of what the GDP will be, I think that what is interesting is that what we currently go through, it's, if you look at the latest press release of our September index, you'll see that we say, yes, there is some growth, but we use the word lackluster. And we are very much looking forward to see that we'll go back into 2, 3, and 4%. Today, for example, based on September data, the year-on-year nowcasting, where we are today, it's 1.1, and the forecasting for the following quarter, which is end of the fourth quarter, is 1.2. This is in itself shows that yes, we are in still, I would say, in a slowdown, not to use a stronger word.
Okay, and this data is, you know, we talked about GDP, and you are this early indicator for GDP because yours comes out every month, but it is highly correlated, isn't it, to the GDP figure that comes out every quarter?
Yeah, yes, and that was how we developed the index, is that over time, Andre's team did a number of analyses, and we saw that only for our payments traffic, there's a very high correlation between GDP and the evolution of our volumes. And then we worked with an external party, with econometricians to kind of validate and refine what we had been doing. And that correlation now is certainly confirmed for the nowcasting. What we are also still validating is the forecasting. How reliable is that tool as a forecasting tool, which is also important for us because we use it internally to forecast our own traffic for the coming quarter.
Sure. So, as we said, it's a early leading indicator. What do you guys know now that the market out there doesn't know already?
I think that if you look at some of the countries, you'll see that based on the information that we have, we saw that, for example, if you look at the United States, you'll see that we are well above 1.5% and 2%. And this is, I think, a positive sign. We'll see if October confirms the September data. Hopefully yes, because America very often drives the way out of recessions. We looked at EU27, we see that we are still close to 0.5, 0.3%. And I think that we have some evidence. I'm not saying that the market out there doesn't know, but we have some solid evidence about this number.
So you are cautiously optimistic, would you say?
I hope that I can be optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
And I think that's right. We discussed in September our budget assumptions for next year. We do that with our board. So we have 25 bankers around the table. And everybody agrees that next year the growth will continue to be very modest, probably slightly better than this year. So if you look at the SWIFT traffic, we're expecting a growth around 5% next year. This year we're 3.5%. So it's a, let's say, a marginal improvement.
Yes.
But it's far away from what we knew in the years before 2008 that was double-digit growth. So indeed we are cautiously optimistic about a slow recovery that will, we believe, continue to be driven more by emerging economies than mature economies.
So fingers crossed, everybody. Enjoy it. Thanks very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see you guys, Andre and Francis.